Holocron of dark knowledge, hear my words. I am Lord Urus, Sith Reviewer, and this is spoiler-free cinema. Recent Star Wars releases have had a lot of negativity surrounding them, and my reaction to them has not been a small part of this. To counter this, and to remind both you cretins and myself that I am, in fact, a Star Wars fan, this is my top 10 Star Wars novels. First off, I'd like to mention a few novels that didn't make it onto this list. Matthew Stover's second Star Wars novel, Shatterpoint, qualifies as one of my favorite books. At least, it would if I had read it in the years since it came out. As of now, my memories of this novel are too dim to place it on a list like this, so it gets an honorable mention. Timothy Zahn's Allegiance almost made it into the number 10 spot, but the Han Solo and Luke Skywalker subplot was not up to this list standards. Number 10. X-Wing, Wraith Squadron. This is the book that won out over Allegiance, and I don't think there's a single person I know who has read both of these books who doesn't rejoice over that fact, except that it took me a lot more consideration than it would have taken them. Allegiance is one of my favorite Star Wars novels in the past 5 years. Aaron Alston's 4 Wraith Squadron books are many readers' favorite Star Wars novels of all time. Wraith Squadron introduces a brand new squadron to the X-Wing series, but this fact is eclipsed by the introduction of Aaron Alston, who would quickly become one of the brightest stars of the Star Wars galaxy. He started off on the right foot with his unique blend of action, character, and humor, and you just can't help but love this collection of misfits that Alston puts together, along with help from Wedge Antilles, one of the most recognizable characters in the Star Wars universe, and Wes Janson, who hardcore X-Wing fans know best from Michael Stackpole's X-Wing comics. Number 9. Republic Commando, Hard Contact. This is the second time I've put an author's debut novel on this list, but it definitely won't be the last. There's just something about the first dip into the pool that inspires a swimmer to do those extra laps that they would almost never be able to do otherwise. So it is with Republic Commando, Hard Contact. I'll go into more detail about the fact that this is the second video game spin-off novel on this list, but the fact of the matter is that unless its name begins with Super and ends with the title of a film, I haven't spent much time playing Star Wars games, never mind the Republic Commando series. What I do know is that Hard Contact is another book about a new team getting together, and despite having only 4 members from identical genetic stock, trained in the same place and, except for one, by the same person, these characters are unique and interesting in addition to getting the job done. It doesn't hurt that we're seeing Mandalorians as both good and bad guys, using the Clone Wars era setting to tell a brief story about a civilization in a way that doesn't feel like any Star Wars novel that came before. Number 8. Darth Bane, Path of Destruction. Drew Karpyshyn started off his Star Wars career by bringing us Darth Revan, Darth Malak, and the rest of the Knights of the Old Republic franchise. It was in 2006 when he was first introduced to the non-game playing fans of the expanded universe, and we loved him. Darth Bane, Path of Destruction combined the dark side source book with an outdated, cheesy comic to give us a dark and dramatic tale of the beaten down Dessel and his path out of a life of paying off his father's debt to his struggles in the Sith Academy. In the process, we get to see everything there is to the philosophy of the Sith, and how and why Darth Bane shaped it into the Order as we know it today. Number 7. The Mandalorian Armor. K.W. Jeter is the first author on this list that wouldn't go on to keep writing Star Wars after his first trilogy. As far as I can tell, this had a lot to do with the negative reception to his offering, The Bounty Hunter Wars. This trilogy featured bounty hunters Boba Fett and Dengar, plus a new character, as they relived Boba Fett's past en route to uncovering a sinister plot. While the ending really hurts the trilogy, the first book, made in the traditional trilogy vein of being a potential standalone novel, really cemented Boba Fett's place as an inspiration to a 12-year-old boy who wanted to make it on his own. I also love the way this trilogy puts you behind the eyes of a strong female protagonist, something recent Star Wars needs more of. Still, the most epic thing about the Mandalorian armor has to be the mission to Circumtor and the bounty hunters that accompany Fett there. I said epic, I didn't say smart. Number 6. X-Wing, Wedge's Gamble. Wedge's Gamble is not somebody's first foray into the Star Wars universe. It's Michael Stackpole's second. His first book, Rogue Squadron, was a contender for this list, but ultimately it comes in at number 12 or so. Wedge's Gamble had a little less of the space combat that made Rogue Squadron awesome, but it makes up for it with better character development and some psychological writing. Rogue Squadron was a great book, sure, but Wedge's Gamble was the first book I read in years that made me doubt if I could write something just as good if it were my full-time job. Michael Stackpole knows his characters, and Wedge's Gamble is the book about these characters. It's also a pretty decent spy book. Number 5. The Last Command. Many trilogies excel early on, starting with a standalone novel that must both set up the trilogy as well as having a good enough conclusion to withstand the potential of not being signed on for the second and third book. This, on top of the requirement of selling enough to get the second book signed. The Thrawn trilogy, on the other hand, was signed as a trilogy to start with. Heir to the Empire does a good job of setting up the conflict, and Dark Force Rising does a good job of carrying it on. But neither of these are complete without the conclusion to the trilogy, which is why The Last Command is the one that earns a spot on this list. This is the book that took Heir to the Empire's Mara Jade and made her a staple in the Star Wars franchise for the next 15 years. Not to mention all of the other elements introduced in Heir to the Empire and Dark Force Rising that reach their immortality through this book. It is for concluding, and therefore giving form to the most popular and one of the most epic stories of the expanded universe, that The Last Command takes its rightful place among my Grand Admirals. Number 4. The New Jedi Order, Traitor. Traitor was Matthew Stover's first novel in the Star Wars universe. In a few short years, Stover has become not only one of the most diverse Star Wars authors, writing in 3 different eras about 4 main characters, including a film novelization, but also one of the most celebrated. Traitor was the one that started it all.
Before New Jedi Order Traitor came out, Star Wars fans hadn't quite experienced just how intense the universe we've all come to know and love could be. The excruciatingly detailed torture and the romance scenes in Attack of the Clones do not count, even if those were pretty painful, were really unheard of before this novel, and it just contributed to the overall feeling of darkness the book practically oozed from its pages. You don't have to be a fan of the whole torture porn genre of horror to appreciate the masterful writing that went into these parts, and every other single page of the book itself. It was, and still is, very different from any other Star Wars book we've ever come across, as we saw Jason slowly morph into another character than he was previously. Whereas before he was the rash young Jedi who, well, was an irritating little twerp that you wanted to slap all the time, after this book he was the mature, self-aware person who struck a perfect balance between darkness and light. You can barely even consider him a Jedi after this. And of course, even though he was the main protagonist, there were other side characters that improved the whole experience. In this book, Virga was solidified as one of the most thought-provoking characters in the entire Star Wars universe. And of course, no one can forget Ganner's epic death. You shall not pass indeed. But perhaps the best thing about the whole book is the new philosophical views it brings up about the Force. I mean, there's just so much food for thought that it's practically overwhelming. No Star Wars book before or after that has accomplished that to this extent. I mean, you could practically write an essay about it. It provides so much material.
It cemented the mystery of Verger in our minds as one that would come to cause readers to question where the line between Jedi and Sith fell, where light side ended and dark side began, and how much of an expanse there is between one and the other. Of course, there is no solid answer to that, if only because the truth that George Lucas so adamantly holds to is one that is diametrically opposed to both the ideas of this novel and the morality of characters found in the original trilogy. Han Solo and Indiana Jones were long champions of the gray side of humanity, and Trader took that concept, turned it on its head, and used Yuuzhan Vong teachings to apply it to a Jedi Knight in a fashion that we had never seen before. Number 3. Republic Commando 000. 000 takes the ideas of Trader and brings them to the next level. What happens when a squad of good people is assigned to Black Ops?
000 and Republic Commando as a whole is really quite unique. Republic Commando has characters that are much more down to earth than what we see in other books. It's not somebody like Han, Leia, or Luke. It's just guys on the ground fighting in a war that they really don't have that much stake in. It really does explore all of the different political ramifications of using clone soldiers in a war.
With her second novel in the Republic Commando series, Karen Traviss raised the stakes considerably. Here we are introduced to a second squad, as well as Wayland Vaughn and Kyle Scarada, two of the Mandalorians responsible for training the Republic Commandos. Conflicting ideologies and the possibility of doing terrible things for a good cause are the rule here. The conflict and everything done about it are bigger than the first book. All of the familiar characters return, and this is the last of the Republic Commando novels to really be a self-encompassing book. True Colors starts the series off on a tangent that never really finishes, due to the nature of a video game tie-in, but 000 remains largely free of this caveat.
All the characters are just excellent. Darman, the main character of the Republic Commando series, is really pretty cool, and you start to feel for him when he starts spiraling into insanity. The other characters work really well too, like Fi, one of Darman's squad mates. He's really funny, and if he was in a movie, he would be awesome. Another good thing about the Republic Commando series is it really explores the Mandalorians, which hasn't really been done all that much. Although, the Mandalorians in Republic Commando are much more honorable than the ones seen in later Star Wars books. But all told, while the prequel trilogy and most of the prequel work is terrible, Republic Commando is the shining gem of that particular subset.
Number 2. The New Jedi Order, the Unifying Force. The New Jedi Order was responsible for a lot of Star Wars novels, and to this day these are still some of the best novels in the franchise's history. If I expanded this list to a top 20, I would be surprised if at least 25% of the books on the list were not from this 19-book series. Every hardcover of this series, and many of the other books, is worthy of its own story. R.A. Salvatore of Drizzt fame ushered in the series with the epic Vector Prime, a novel that introduced Jaina and Jacen as teenage protagonists and shocked the world with the death of Chewbacca, an act that shattered the Solo family, only to be reunited in Kathy Tears, known to Star Wars fans as the author of the Truce at Bakura novel Balance Point, before Troy Denning upped the ante and killed yet another beloved character and yet another heroic sacrifice in the massive Star by Star. From there we seem to get gold followed by gold. Destiny's Way, the follow-up to Trader and other paperbacks that reunites the family that was separated in Star by Star, receives a lot of flack from fans, but to me it will always be the novel that challenged perceptions of what Jedi, Sith, and Vergers were, and the book where Jaina Solo, half immobilized, does what Swords of the Jedi do best. The Unifying Force is a novel that is the culmination of this series. Jacen Solo and Tahiri Vela, both past their Yuuzhan Vong related trials, are kicking ass and taking names. Luke Skywalker is at the top of his game here, and, this being NJO, pretty much any Luke appearance is destined for greatness. We get space combat, politics of the least boring sort, the living planet sort, epic duels, and epic minions. Really, the only thing that's not epic about this book is Jaina, but considering her leading lady role in the rest of the NJO, I can forgive that to a certain extent. This is Jacen's book, but there's a lot more to it than that. Number 1. Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor. Luke Skywalker and the Shadows of Mindor is epic in every sense of the word. Every character you loved from the movies makes an appearance, and nobody has less than one crowning moment of awesome, especially Lando Calrissian. Mandalorians, rogues, Han Solo being the best pilot alive except for Luke, and Luke being the shining beacon of light that we see him transform into in the months after Return of the Jedi. The Battle of Mindor is a battle for which EU fans have been waiting since 1994, when it was described as a grueling and bloody battle that convinced Luke Skywalker to resign his New Republic flag and become a Jedi full-time, something that certain authors keep trying to push up to as early as the Battle of Yavin. This book does it right, not only showing us a terrible battle, but giving us good reason to see why Luke would believe his skills are wasted as a general in the battles he's been fighting. While Emperor Palpatine was dark, the truth behind Lord Shadowspawn is even blacker. And it's only by facing the deepest darkness in himself and exposing it to the light that Luke has any chance of surviving this battle. Never mind saving the rest of the leadership of the New Republic from certain doom that would make Michael Bay and Roland Emmerich rub their hands in greedy admiration. Action, comedy, drama, droids' rights. This book's got anything and everything you could ever want from a Star Wars novel. Actually, I take that back. Romance is fairly light, but I don't see how any attempt to shoestring a romance plot in this novel will be anything but cliché and rushed. In fact, that's exactly what happened. Characters added specifically for the reason of people loving Shatterpoint came off as being a rushed attempt at romance, and a few other things, and mar an otherwise perfect novel. What this means for the future is that nothing in the expanded universe has quite come to top The Empire Strikes Back. Something that I think should be everybody's goal, whether they make films, movies, or comics. There's always another chance to write the best thing ever. If this list is anything to go by, it may well be the next author added to the Star Wars roster, or the next one. That certainly does wonders for my mood. After all, disappointment is not a path to mastery of the dark side. Except in rare cases. Now go.